So hello again, everyone. I hope you're ready for the second part. I invite Boris or Professor Jirafi to talk a little bit, if they want, about the MTT Society or the Keysight group in Canada.
Hello, can you hear me? Mine?
Yes. Hi, Boris. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. Uh, Hope you enjoyed our session today, and we are planning to show for you even more for ADS, EEL programming, and some new functionality in the software. And also, I would like to say a huge thanks to IEEE community in mind for organizing this great event today. And we have students and professors from many different locations within Canada. And
Yes, yes.
if you have any questions about the software, feel free to contact with me and AJ. I support Canada Territory and I work very close with CMC Microsystems, where you probably get your software licenses, and also cooperate with many universities in Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, Alberta. That's why if you need any help or assistance from Keysight, yeah, feel free to contact with our team here.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Boris, for the information. So, yeah, if you
And
want to talk a little bit about your services for the students, you are welcome to do it now.
yeah,
It's
sure. And maybe, another idea or feedback I have mine, because we have this very successful collaboration with INRS and IEEE Montreal students community. If you think that we should organize another events with some other specific topic, I don't know, for example, you're running EM simulation, or you're doing like a mimic design, RFIC design, or maybe you are working on quantum computing. It's really cool and modern these days. Please let us know. You may
sure.
contact with mine and tell him that our group here would like to have like a Keysight seminar, workshop, or training for this particular topic, and then we'll be happy to work together and arrange this kind of activity. Because again, we're always open to support students and professors here in Canada. And if you need something special from us, just let us know. Contact with mine, and or send a request with some kind of special topic for our next event.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for the good point. Yes, absolutely. Anyone, if they you have a suggestion, or if you need any help in any specific topic, you can reach us. You can reach out to me or Boris or Yusuf in Polytechnique. So we will be more than happy to try to help you and organize the events with the topic that's really helpful for the community in Canada or in Montreal. It's our objective. So don't hesitate to reach out. And even now, if you can, because one of the objective of this kind of events to do the networking. So if you have any idea, don't hesitate to unmute yourselves and talk a little bit, so you can reach out. And yes, perfect. And thank you again, Boris, for your support. Especially, we had an amazing experience working with you the last years, even this year, and I hope we can do it again and more often. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you, man. Yeah, you're
My
always
pleasure.
welcome. Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll be planning other events this year and next year too. And hope
Sure.
one day we'll have, on-site face-to-face meetings with professors and
Of
students
course,
in
of
Montreal.
course.
But probably this year we'll be leading all these events online remotely.
Yes, for with the corona, it's like this now, but hopefully after the at least at, like in 2022 we can do in person because hopefully.
Okay, are we ready to restart?
Yes, if you're ready, you can go
Great,
ahead. Yeah.
great. Just a little comment here. It's amazing how, regardless of who you talk to, we all have the same expectations and hopes that once we're beyond the coronavirus, we're all going to be able to come face to face and meet each other or work with each other.
Exactly.
And it's funny that those are the things that we used to take for granted. Remember?
Yes, yes.
And now we realize what we missed. It's incredible.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
incredible.
Yes.
But, you know, like you said, hopefully soon, real soon, we'll be able to engage face to face and meet people and be back to some kind of normalcy.
Yes.
Okay. So while on break, I went ahead and did a little bit of digging in the ADS install tree, and there's quite a bit of really nice examples in there. And the one I want to direct you folks to, which I think you're going to like, is if you go to wherever your ADS is installed, and under examples, design kit, demo, nonlinear kit, and then you have the version 2.0, and you have the entire PDK for this particular kit. The reason I'm pointing you to it is because the PDK is made up of a collection of AEL files. For instance, if you go into the circuits folder, you'll see that there's artwork files here that basically capture the various shapes or artwork that exist for this particular, like for instance, for this bond pad, for this VIA, for any one of these devices. In some cases, you might even have a transistor. In fact, where is one right here? You have a resistor here, an inductor, a FET. So this particular AEL file here, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up because it's always interesting to open it up and see what we see in there. This particular AEL file will have all the instructions required to generate the layout for that particular FET. In this case, it's called demo FET 0_1. So, and of course, as I said, you have all of your comments. In fact, in the first line we see here, you have a single line comment, which is // and then you have a multi-line comment here that opens up as a /*, and then closes over here as an */. And then you can identify all the things that we've learned so far here. Here you have what's referred to as a simple instruction. So, but what I really want to point you to now is, I went ahead and loaded the kit. And what I did was I see the palette, which, by the way, this is all done through AEL. So if you go to circuits AEL, I'm sorry, DEAEL here, you'll notice that there is should be a folder, or should be a file here. There it is right there. This particular file here generates the palette that appears here. The bitmaps, of course, are in a different folder, but this is all done through AEL. So meanwhile, back to our FET here. If you instantiate the FET, as you see here, this is all done through AEL. And if we go back to that if we go back to that layout that we were looking at earlier, this will generate the layout for that. If we go ahead and do a generate layout and apply, there's the layout. It was that macro, that artwork macro, that was written in AEL that generated the layout for that particular FET. And of course, if you go back to your schematic window and you double click on your component and you adjust the number of fingers. Again, that's all done through an AEL callback instruction that manages all that information. And if I change it to, I don't know, let's see if this thing can do, actually there's a selection. Let's go to 2 fingers, apply, and let's go ahead and generate the layout again. And you should see one transistor with 4 fingers and another transistor, and there you go, sure enough. And that, of course, as I said earlier, was done all through AEL, the magic of AEL, as I like to call it. So this is AEL in action here. This is what you see. This is what's referred to as a process design kit. This is the kit that's generally developed by foundries, or sometimes we develop them on behalf of foundries. So this is all done on AEL programming. So just to give you a flavor or an idea of the capability or the power of AEL. And there's some fun things you can do with AEL, and maybe I'll find a couple of those and share those with you. Some neat little tricks you can do. So let's go back to our presentation here. And where is that? Oh, the other thing I do want to say, this is the Knowledge Center. If you haven't registered, I encourage you to do it, because all it takes is one quick search like I did here on AEL, and I have an incredible amount of information ranging from AEL add-ons, loading them, snippets of code that I can leverage and use. So those are all things that are available to all the users. So I encourage you, if you haven't done it, register on the Knowledge Center. There's always some really good information there. You may not find exactly what you're looking for, but at least you'll find a good starting point. So I encourage you to do that. Let's see, let's go back to my presentation here. And let's see where we left off. So we had just talked a little bit about a simple statement. And we said that in a simple statement, we're not too interested in preserving the value, that it's just a matter, it's more of a placeholder, and then you use it, the information gets transferred, and that's pretty much the end of that. So that's considered a simple, and it's not a very involved expression. So a compound statement, on the other hand, you could usually recognize those right away, because you see a collection of braces holding one area of the statement together and then another area of the statement there, and it could be a very involved instruction. It could actually be a very involved instruction. It could have items that would control the flow of the code and different things that that are typical of a very involved statement. Variable declaration. So this is a very important one. You cannot introduce a variable into your code without having it declared first. If you do, like in the case of A here, decl A, the value of A is assumed to be null, its initial value, and you can separate them, and it's all understood that you're going to declare all these variables over here. But if you assign it to a value, then right away B is assigned 5. So you can choose to just declare it without a particular assigned value. The default value will always be null, or you can right away assign a value to it. But as I said earlier, you cannot introduce a variable into a segment of code without having it declared. It's not going to like that. It'll give you warnings and errors and all kinds of little nasty messages to let you know that you didn't declare your variable. So be aware of that. AEL lists. Okay, this is a very interesting piece of information here. So a list is basically a collection of information that's been grouped together. You could almost think of it as, it could be a list of numbers, it could be a list of strings, it could be a mixed combination of information. And some of the examples here, you have a list of integers here. You have just a list that consists, and generally speaking, when you do declare a list, it is declared as list, as you see here. So A is basically a list consisting of 3 cells, and starting off with 1, 2, and 3. Now, quick little footnote here. If you want to access the individual cells of this list, you would either do it with a for loop, a while loop, or the auto increment feature that it has. If you do that, the very first position where number 1 is sitting at is index 0. So in computer science, as they say, 0 is a number, it's real. So in the case of the list, the first index is 0, then this is index number 1, this is index number 2, and so on. So in index number 1 of list A, we have the value 1. Or rather, I'm sorry, in index number 0, you have the value of list A, you have the value 1. In index number 1 of list A, you have the value 2, and so on. So be mindful of that. If you ever want to access the very first position of the list, it has to be 0. So be aware of that.
We have 2 questions in the chat box,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
First, can we do several parametric sweep and export performance data, for example, S parameters, automatically through AEL programming?
Yes.
And the second one is that, is the length predefined and constant? I think the length of the lists, perhaps.
No, you can go up to infinity.
Okay.
It's going to take a lot of memory if you do that, but okay. There's no value, no predefined number that you can't. You can have it, and in fact, if we go back to the list and you look at all these examples, this is a one-dimensional list. You can do a 2-dimensional list, you can do a 3-dimensional list, and so on and so on. At that point, it starts getting very interesting, and those 3-dimensional lists or 2-dimensional lists, we start calling them arrays. And you'll see that topic. I'll cover that towards the end. What's really cool about that is you can do all of your array math. You can do your transposes, you can do all kinds. There are instructions within AEL that allow you to do different linear algebra operations. So you have that. You have that in your handy dandy tool belt of AEL functions.
Great. I hope this answered his question, because he added to his question that defining as we are declaring.
So
if it's a question, I don't know.
I think if I'm understanding the question, and I'm reading into a little bit, so correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, declaring is like defining. So basically, within the declare, not only do you have the ability to assign a number, but you also have the ability to identify. I'm sorry. You also have the ability of identifying that variable sometimes as real, or an integer, or a string character. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is this is always a really good little trap that happens every once in a while. Is sometimes if you're going to do math on a variable, and that variable has not been declared correctly, as far as the program is concerned, if it was declared as a string, it's a string, and you cannot do math on a string. So you may have to turn that into a real or an integer. So that's another thing that occurs at the time that you're declaring it. As you saw, we declared A as a list earlier. In fact, it's here. In the first example, we actually declared A as a list. And B has been declared as a negative real number, is obviously, and then of course, C is a list, and it has both, it's mixed, it has all kinds, it's got characters, it's got numbers, it's got all kinds of stuff up there. So I hope I got your question. If not, by all means, reach out again, and we'll try to answer it.
Great.
Okay. So let's move on to the next slide here. Yeah, let's do a quick time check to see how we're doing here. Okay, it's 10:35. It's good. Function definition. So if you recall earlier, I was talking about functions and how information has to be enclosed within a function. If it's outside of a function and it's a variable, it's considered to be a global variable. So in other words, if you recall, if we go back to our declarations here and we declare A equal to a list of 1, 2, 3, and if we were to declare that above the function and there are no other functions here, then A has become a global variable. So now any functions that precede A will recognize A as that list of 1, 2, 3. And as I said, global variables are very useful, but they could get you into trouble too. So be mindful of when you use those and be aware of how you're using them. When you're creating a function, in this particular case, the function's called identifier, and we're passing a parameter list. So parameter is a list of information that's coming into this chunk of code, and we're going to do an operation on it. Most likely, we're going to go ahead and walk through the various pieces of this list and extract information off of it. And remember what I said earlier, that a list, if you're going through each and all the indices to get the value, the first position is value is 0. So remember that. Don't forget that. If you start at 1, you will be missing the first value. So that is the function definition. This is a very, very useful slide here. This is the control and logic statement slide. So it's inevitable. You're going to have to go through an if block sometimes, or if then else, or if else, or for loops, because programming is all about decisions. You do certain tests against the data, and if it meets a certain criteria, then you take one branch. If it doesn't, you go down another branch. And in the meantime, you're looping through an array, a list, or something, getting the data to test for it. So you will have logic control statements that are going to help you navigate through the code and get the outcomes that you need. And much like C, we have if expressions, we have else expressions, we have else blocks, you have for statements, do, while, the do while loop, or just a while loop. We do have a switch, which is just like a case statement. And we have also labels, which generally are very useful if you have a go-to, as you see here. Let me go back to my pointer, my laser pointer. As you see, this go-to instruction goes to a label, and the label is down here. Go-to statements are kind of tricky. They're useful, but they're kind of a dead end. You don't get much of a decision, and it just goes there, and you have to live with it arriving wherever it arrives. So you need to make sure you know where it is that you're going to go to, and make sure that you really want to go there. So that's something to be aware of. So in combination with all these control logic statements, you have combinations of values and functions that are also available within the AEL instruction set. So that takes care of the hello. Okay, it doesn't want to switch slides now. There it goes. Declarations and initializations. So as I said earlier, you do need to declare your variables. So the moment you introduce a variable, it's important it gets declared. And as I started talking about earlier, AEL does support multi-dimensional arrays. And you have to initialize it accordingly so that it knows that it's a multi-dimensional array. Excuse me. So it knows it's a so that it knows it's a multi-dimensional array, you need to declare it accordingly. Generally speaking, you separate them by, they're separated by a comma delimiter, and you can do integers, doubles, or complex. If you have a combination of real and imaginary, you can have that also. You can have scalar values that are again separated by that. You can have it by commas, a sequence, or a sequence with a step, where you have a min, a max, and a step value. Arrays can be printed, or you can access the value, and it's generally speaking, an array is like a list. And in order for you to access the value on that list, you need to use the identify value. So in other words, what I'm trying to say by that, if we go back to the hello world example that we talked about earlier, and we take this hello world and we now want to echo out or do a DE info of a variable A. If you remember, we assigned 5 to it in one of the previous examples. If we do a DE info of A, it's going to echo out 5. If you do a DE info of the various elements of a list, if you don't use the identify value function as you DE info it, surrounded by brackets, what will happen is you will get the handle of the list. You won't get the value. So that's where the identify value function is very useful, specifically in, see, here's the example right here, actually. So if you really need to see the value of what's contained inside of a list, remember, you access that by using the identify value as you walk through the list itself. So let's see if we can move to the next slide. Good. Operations between arrays. Yes, as I said earlier, you can do array math here. You can do, so that's something that we have. You can do assignments, you can do additions, you can do subtractions, multiplications. And by the way, all matrix rules apply. You can do division, you can do the negation, and you can also do transposes, as I said earlier. So that's something very, very useful. And as you know, it may not be obvious the when and the where you will need to do one of these, but it's good to know, be aware that this type of operation is indeed available. so that if and when you do need it, you say, oh, okay, I remember him saying something about operations and arrays and things like that. And this actually brings me to a very good point here that I want to share with you. So these instructions, or the syntax for all these AEL instructions, are available in the documentation. And let me just show you really quickly where that is. And you can either access it through the help, and you can do a topic and index search, or right from your Microsoft selection, you can go to the main. Oh, I just relaunched another session. Sorry about that. Right from the Microsoft window here, if you go down to where your ADS information, your ADS folder is, Advanced Design System, Keysight. Where is it? Oh, where is it? Did I pass it up? Oh, okay, the manuals are loaded right up here. So let's go to the main window and launch it from there. And topic in search. So error loading it. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's just launch it from here then. Oh, okay. We'll launch this one then. There we go. So the reason I want to point this out is because it's important you understand how to do your searches, or where to look for here. So you'll have your opening tool that'll take you, or your basically your search engine here. You can search under a specific instruction if you happen to know what it is, or in this case, let's just do a search on lists. And the reason I'm searching on lists is because I want to point out that there's a whole section on list management and how to manage lists and things of that nature. And you have a collection of instructions where you can, get the first item, get the last item, do all kinds of maneuvers on a list. And similarly, you also have your AEL instructions that are either sorted by the actual name of the instruction, or by a category, or alphabetically. So if you ever need an instruction, like for instance, here you have the absolute function. You have a way of checking to see if an AEL file exists. And generally speaking, most of them, I'd say about 99.9% of them, come accompanied with an example. So it makes it very easy to understand how it's implemented, and then it gives you an opportunity to be able to extend that and be able to work with it. You have them sorted by alphabetical order and by category. And the category group is mainly by functionality. Like for instance, over here, if you're going to be working on an add-on, it's grouped by this. Here's where all your add-on and all your details regarding that. If you're going to be doing EM simulation functions, here's all your EM information. So your help, your search engine, is one of your best friends when it comes down to this. All the information is there. If you want to do a automated import, you can identify what the import command is, and then you can manage the import process there. So these are things you need to be aware of. These are things that will help you navigate this. And of course, you do have access to the folks that support. Generally speaking, they will not write code for the customer because that's considered a service. But they're very, very helpful, and they certainly go, oftentimes they go well above and beyond the call of duty. So they will help out our customers. So don't hesitate to reach out and get in contact with them. They will help you. They are definitely a resource. So this is something I wanted to mention to you, that all the AEL instructions are contained in the help. You can search it. If I wanted to look at strings, how to manage strings, you'll see that, you know, you have the substring instruction, you have the string P, you have is string. So this particular instruction will test to see if this thing is a string. These are all AEL instructions that you can put in your code. They're ready to go, and they will return either a true condition or a false condition. In some cases, they will, you know, there's an index command that will return the position of a character that you're trying to find. So there's quite a bit of utilities out there that exist that'll help you create very clever code and robust code for what you're looking to do. So let's do a time check here. Okay, let's go into the second demo now. And the second demo, I actually borrowed that from one of my colleagues in the support world, and it's called Prompt Me. And what it does, here, let's open up the code and see if we can take a quick look at it and understand what's going on there. So as you see, we have both an ATF and an AEL. The ATF is the executable, which means that file has already been loaded. So this is a very simple program. What it does is it has a callback called myPrompt, and in that callback, it has a DE info that says you entered, and then there's a variable, a string variable, which got passed in. So as you can see, we're passing in variables now. And then there's another function called test prompt. And test prompt is, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's giving you, it's testing the user to see if there's any information coming. So what's interesting to note about this particular routine is you have two different functions, two different routines. In routine here, my prompt callback is being called, which is the function above it. There are no variables outside of the function, so that means there are no global variables. String is being passed from one to the other. So that tells me that that there are no global variables, and the variable is self-contained, and it's moving in and in and out of the various programs here. So at this point, let's go ahead and clear the history, and let's go ahead and grab the path here, Control C, and load the instruction. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and delete this ATF file so we get a fresh. And by the way, you don't have to delete it. I'm just doing it just to prove a point that it generates it. What happens is at the time it compiles, if it sees that the date and timestamp of the AEL file is newer than the ATF file, it'll automatically compile. So in other words, if I had done an edit to the prompt_me.ael file and it was newer than the ATF file, then it would compare the two dates and say, oh, I need to recompile, and it automatically does it. ADS automatically does that. So that being the case, let's go ahead and do a load so we can compile. And it's load, open quote, the location of where the file is, prompt underscore me, .ael. And we're closing quote. And since this is an AEL instruction, we need to end it with a semicolon. And we apply. And if there are no errors, we will not get any, or rather, yeah, if there are no errors and we notice there's no errors, it will compile and it will generate an ATF as it did. So now in this case, I'm ready to go here now. So what I'm going to do is now go ahead and type test prompt on here. Actually, I'm going to type prompt me, which is the program controlling all this. And PROMPT underscore me, open paren, close paren. And what happened? Did I misspell something? Oh. Oh, it's test prompt. Sorry. TST underscore prompt. So now what's happening is an API call, these are called API calls, has popped up, and it's been populated with specific information in this field that says, please type something, which the programmer put this in there. And there's the information. And then once I type the information I want here, I can go ahead and do an OK there. And the DE info now, the information window comes back and echoes what I wrote on there. So these are very fundamental and rudimentary programs, but they're demonstrating the point that there is a way to communicate back and forth with the tool. And it also demonstrates that you can have multiple functions or multiple or communicate with the multiple functions and be able to accomplish a task. So top of the hour here, we're going to take our next 10-minute break, and we'll be back at 11:10. Are we good with that?
Yes, AJ. Thank you so much. So
thank you.
We can take the second break.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay, hello again, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our workshop so far. Just wanted to okay, just reading a message. I want to present you the Polytechnique students branch. We had Yusuf here, but he lost his connection due to the internet. So I will present their student branch, the IEEE student branch in Polytechnique in Montreal. Let me share my screen. So similar to IEEE student branch in INRS, we have another branch in Polytechnique Montreal, and it's full screen, yes. And this building is the University of Polytechnique, which is belongs to the University de Montréal. And the
Hey,
chair.
Moin, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, this is Boris.
Hi,
Yeah, could you
Bruce.
please move your microphone because your voice
Cannot
is...
hear? Oh, I forgot to
Yeah,
do it. Okay,
good,
sorry.
good, good.
Thank you. So Yusuf is the chair of the IEEE student branch in Polytechnique. He had, as I think you didn't hear it, he had a problem with the internet connection, so he lost his connection to our webinar now. But I hope we can have him again at the third part. But he is the chair of the IEEE student branch in Montreal. And Professor Kevu is the counselor of the IEEE student branch, and he is a director of the Polygram Research Center as well, and also the chair of MTT Society in Montreal. And Amir Afshani is the vice chair, and he is a PhD student in Polytechnique. Mrs. Hana Akbarzadeh is the secretary, and Parikshat Sirpal is the treasurer, and Mrs. Shukufe Seifi is the website designer, and also they had Pablo Camacho as a public relations representative. So they are all students in Polytechnique, and previously they had workshop on LaTeX and how to start artificial intelligence, and introduction session on the competition in Montreal called Coperaton. And so like us, they are trying to provide a better opportunity uh, for their students to help them prepare for their future career. So that's it. So the Polytechnique is another co-organizer of these events. If you want to reach them, you can also find them in social media. So this is their website, and also they have a channel in Facebook. And also you can send an email to Facebook or me to reach out to them if you're interested in joining their team or finding more about their event. Also, let me stop my sharing screen and open the YouTube channel of the Keysight. Okay, so I hope you can So this is the YouTube channel of the Keysight and EEsof software. You can find different materials regarding the different topics. You can use ADS software, and if so, yes. This is another thing that we wanted to tell you about. If you had any topic that you're working and you need information, you can use this channel. And of course, if you needed more help, if you had any question, you can reach out to Boris. He will for sure help you out. As you see, there is a different topic that you can work on, pathway, and also different applications, measurements, and etc. So I invite you to visit this channel and use the materials. Boris, if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Moin. And I just
My pleasure.
sent in the chat 2 links. The first link is a Keysight EEsof channel where we post a lot of new videos, because these days it's really hard to track what's new in the software. It's really hard to find some good information with limited time, and we understand that all students, professors, engineers so overloaded with their daily type of work. That's why we decided to create this YouTube channel a couple of years back and publish here like 10 to 15 minutes video, really short videos. Some of them are application specific, for example, like how to design like a GAN or like power amplifier. And if you open any video, you will see that if you demonstrate some examples, you're also able to download this example. There will be notes below any video with a link to our knowledge center. That's why you not only be watching videos, you can also download the same workspace and try to play with this workspace in your ADS. And then also I send a link for our second channel, and the second one is more informal. It's our application junior in North America. They decided to open this AE's tips and tricks channel, where they publish more in-depth kind of videos, how to start with system view or how to start with EDS. And they talk for like 30-45 minutes with more details about our software solutions. And this one is really new channel. That's why, yeah, please feel free to subscribe. And if you have any questions, contact with me. Yep. Thank you, Mike.
Great.
Yep.
You're welcome. Thank you for the useful information. Great. So
Okay, are we ready?
yes, Ajay.
Okay,
You
great.
can go ahead.
All right. So we're in the home stretch now. And let's go ahead and there's only a small collection of slides, and then I'm going to go into the more detailed work that I've done, and also go into some more information about the various add-ons that are actually available. So let's go ahead and share. All right, so the last thing we talked about was array math. We talked about the fact that we can, if I go back up one more slide, we can do all the linear algebra operations that we learned about. We can do them over in the wonderful world of AEL. We can do the math, or the addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, division, negation, and we can even do a transpose. So that's very, very handy tools. The other thing that we can do also, and I alluded to it earlier, that looping, which is one of our control instructions, flow control instructions, is how we would navigate inside of the inside of the array. And the array, as I said earlier, is like a list. And what we said about the list is, if you notice right here, oh, I'm not even in presentation mode. Let's go presentation mode. If you noticed, we're using a for loop, which later on gets introduced into the array. And what I want to call your attention to is we're starting at I equals 0 because, as I said earlier, 0 is a number in the wonderful world of programming. It's a number that generally is the very first index of any kind of a list or array. So don't forget that. It's very, very important that you start off at 0 when you're dealing with a list, unless you intentionally want to grab the second or the third or the fourth entry. At that point, you could either pick the index itself or just start your loop at a particular value. So, so the last thing I want to have here, I think there's one more slide after this. We're kind of going back to the command line here, and it'll give me a good opportunity to summarize a few things here. So the command line is probably the most fundamental way of running an AEL program. It's not the most glamorous. Basically, you run it right from the command line, and it does what it needs to do. And as you may recall, this is how you access the command window or the command line through Tools command line. And there's a bunch of other little selections here like vocabulary and save to favorites and delete favorites and triple dot. We all know what triple dot means, that there's more stuff over there. So let's just quickly go through this window here. You saw what the command history does. Essentially, when you type in an instruction here and you hit apply, it bounces up to the command history, to the command history, so it tracks all of your history. One very convenient thing to do is if you're going to rerun something, it's just a matter of clicking on the history and it repopulates it back to the command window. If you're doing a lot of repetitive work with a specific instruction, if you click Save to Favorites, what'll happen is in your user folder, it'll create an entry. Say you're constantly loading the Hello World program. Let's just say that. And you're tired of typing this very long path out. So if you click Save to Favorites, then what will happen is on this drop-down window, it will appear there. In fact, let's just do that. It wouldn't hurt. Oh wow, this thing is not cooperating. There we go. Yeah, if we go back to Save to Favorites, or rather to the close that up. So right now, if I go to the drop down here, there's absolutely nothing in my drop down. If I click on that and then I do a Save to Favorites, oh, wait a minute, where is it? Add. So now what will happen is, let's just say I run this one now. Well, we knew that that one was going to work, but now if I check my dropdown, it appears there. Because essentially what's happened is by you clicking the add button, and similarly, you can delete that entry by clicking the minus. In your user folder, it's created an entry in your configuration folder, in your favorites folder, for this particular instruction. So it's available. I can shut down ADS, come back tomorrow, and go to my drop-down, and sure enough, it will appear there. So that's a convenient thing to do. The other thing that I wanted to bring your attention to, we saw what the clear history does. It wipes out everything up here. And of course, help is help. You know, just click on that, it takes you to help. But what I really want to draw your attention to is the vocabulary. So the default is Command Up. But if you click on the three buttons, you have all this information here, and you're like, what is this all about? So depending on what button you select here, it'll operate in that one. This instruction will only operate in the one. The default, of course, is Command Up. Command Up has the highest level of hierarchy. In fact, I have that information on the last slide here. So generally speaking, you rarely have to change command, or you rarely have to change the vocabulary from Command Up. You're generally speaking, you're safe by going with the default. The only time I can think of when you're going to need to change something like that is if you're working on a specific design kit and you're only interested in having that instruction execute for that design kit only. In that case, then you would pick that option. And let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So the other thing I did want to say, so we talked about executing from the command window, which is the more conventional and the more traditional. But the more elegant and impressive one is creating what's referred to as an add-on, as I said earlier. And of course, that's all done through your Tools Applications Manager. And you can create your own add-on and add something on there. What this does basically is, the moment you launch the tool, it goes through the add-on list. It identifies the boot file, which is this file that I have here. And it loads all this code here, along with any of the other code that appears on here. And in this case, I'm leveraging AEL code, also leveraging a Python routine that was written. And I also have an executable file that I'm going to be using. And I also created, as you can see, I also created a drop-down menu that if I pick, I have this window that I actually created. So you can do something as extensive as this, where you can browse to a file, the file browser opens, you pick, you navigate, you're using all the Windows functionality here. You navigate to where you want to. You either close or open, the information gets populated here. In this case, I'm pointing to my source file because I'm going to be pulling in a file and I'm going to operate on it. Then I'm going to identify where I want my output directory to be. The other thing that I'm doing now is I'm selecting different conditions here, either number of inputs ranging from 1, 2, or 3. These are all radio buttons, by the way. As you click one, the other one releases. In this case, now I'm trying to figure out what type of training I'm going to be doing here. And as you can see, this is still work in progress because my drop-down window is not working. In this one here, I'm doing another browse. This one I have radio buttons. I have my run button, which is build, or I can close my window. So this is pretty extensive here. This is a very detailed interface here that was created. And then behind all this, there's a whole bunch of code that I'm going to be using to communicate and actually successfully run a particular operation. And No, I'm not running it through the command line because it's automatically loading because I have a boot file. And it's convenient for me because I went ahead and created a drop-down window, and I don't have to invoke the command line. But you know, it's like anything else in this world. There's a place for everything, and everything has its place. The command line tool is very useful because it allows you the ability to quickly access the ADS environment and compile a snip of code and run it to execute something. But if you find that you're going to be doing this on a regular basis, then it's probably in your best interest to sit down and create an add-on that will load a drop-down window that will allow you to do whatever adjustments you need to do to the file, and then you can move on. And you won't have to struggle with it. But there are many things you can do. I actually wrote one a while back where I had an area that was white space over here. And as I was doing an operation, it was providing input or feedback on what it was doing as it was processing the data line by line, and it was creating a log file too, so that at the end, I can browse through the log file and see if it accomplished what I needed it to do. So there's a lot of things you can do with AEL. It's fun. It's what's cool. What's really cool about it is, you know, at the end of the day, when you put together your drop-down window and it accomplishes whatever it needs to accomplish, it's exciting to see it operate, and you certainly have a sense of accomplishment that you did something that will improve your cycle time, and it'll give you some satisfaction. And it's like anything else, the more you program in it, the easier it becomes to you, and the quicker you can develop IP. And as I said, you do have access to the folks on support. In services, we do write code for customers. We do customizations of environments. We do enterprise libraries for them. A customer has a library of, I don't know, 60 or 70,000 parts, and they want models attached to it, and they want these library parts to be available on a palette or in the library browser. That's all something that's being done through a design kit, which has a lot of AEL behind it that's making all that happen. So anyhow, that's any questions? Any questions?
Thank you, Ajay. Yes, there is a question from Amin. Sorry, how we can have access to data sets through AEL, and how we can modify it?
Okay, so that's a little more involved. That's a little bit more involved than a conversation we can have now. But if you can send me his email address,
sure.
I can provide him some more details on that, or anyone else who's interested in that too.
Okay, sure. I will ask him for his email and get to you after the workshop.
Great, so that I can pass on the information. Any other questions?
Not so far, but I have another. I have questions from my sides, because you showed us like a layout of a FET transistor, and you changed the number of input, and it automatically changed the layouts in the figure of the layout. My question is that in case that we want to like have a very complicated a multi-layer layout, can we do it automatically with the AEL, and we should do it in a schematic? How did you change the figure? It's you gave the information before in the code.
Yeah. So that was essentially what happens is you have a series of callbacks. So you start off with your artwork routine,
Okay.
right? And the component that gets instantiated has a dialog box. So let's quickly go back to that schematic and do a quick walkthrough on what's available. Oh, that's Wafer Pro. Wrong tool. That's another tool that we produce. Perhaps we can even do a talk about that one someday.
Sure.
If we go back to the schematic we were just looking at, and we double click. So this dialog box here was created specifically for this device. These parameters here were identified as parameters that will vary. For instance, this is the gate width. The gate width can vary from 100 to whatever checking the developer might have put in there, and might report back. They might report back that we've exceeded the capability of the tool. But anyhow, these parameters here get pushed into the artwork macro through a series of callbacks. And if we go back to the artwork macro on this, let's see, where was that? That would be here, I think. Was that it? Yes, this is it. So this is the demo kit. By the way, this demo kit is available to everyone. It's under the install tree, under examples, design kit, and just keep following the path. And then once you're in there, and as I said, under the DE-AEL path, you have the palette and you have some other very, in fact, you also have the boot file here too. You have a really good collection of AEL files that will help you build on your AEL expertise and also be able to build something like this. But what I want to direct you to is under circuits, you have the artwork folder. And if we look at the FET, example, FET 1, we said it was, right? Is that FET 1? Let's see.
I think yes.
Let's see. Yeah, it's FET 1. So if we take FET 1 and we move that into my handy dandy notepad, we can start dissecting this. So let's do a quick search on gate width. So it would be GW. Let's see what pops. Okay, right here. Right away, we have a function that's called demo FET1 draw heat sources. So this particular function here, and it's exactly what the comment says. This is the function that draws the heat sources for this kit in order to do thermal analysis. As inputs, it has the gate width, the number of fingers, the model information, X and Y coordinates, and I don't know what the D is. But anyhow, you could see that they're already passing information like that because they need to develop or they need to create an image of for that particular device.
In the layout.
In the layout. If you browse down further, you see some more information. Specifically, this function here is the one that's drawing the drain for the FET.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that, it's passing X and Y reference information. Because remember, you're placing the part somewhere in space.
Exactly.
And you need to get reference information. You need to get information about the drain, the source, and the gate, because those are pins that you're going to need to ultimately place on your layout. And as we already learned, the gate width and the number of fingers are changing. So you need to get the latest piece of information coming in so that then you can make your own adjustments.
Okay,
see,
great.
Draw the drain, drawing drain manifold. So it's taking the reference 0x and adding some gate width information on there. And there's some correction factor of 2.5 or something like that.
Okay, good.
So yeah, this is the information. Oh, and more specifically, it's actually drawing, if you go down a little further, it's actually drawing a rectangle for probably one of the fingers or something like that.
Exactly. And in case you had like a multiple fits, you can make a loop and to add like whatever number of elements you had.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Well,
Okay.
if you saw, I actually placed two FETs on there, and one of them I changed it to 4 or left it at 4, and the other one I changed to 2.
Exactly.
And the software performed as it's supposed to. It made the adjustments it needed to make and rendered the image, rendered the drawing.
Okay, good. And just another quick question: that can you do the AEL to just directly create a shape in the layout, not in the schematic? So it just
yes,
okay.
You can do that. There are ways of selecting the schematic window only, or selecting the layout window.
Okay.
And then you can pick the polygon shape that you want. And if you happen to know the starting point,
okay,
then you can place one corner at the starting point and then manage or control how far X, how far Y. You can even identify the layer that you want, because if you look at this over here, this DB add rectangle. Well, here's a really good case study here. We can take this instruction here, and I happen to know that this instruction has a context, it has a layer information, and it has some kind of offset information here. But I don't know enough about it. So what I'm going to do, which should be a good learning experience here, is I can go to my help. Right? And I copied the instruction. Oh, that's not it. Let's go to this one here. This one will work. Actually, this one's better. And I can just place the instruction in there. And there it is. And it'll tell me. So the first parameter is the context, which will tell me what window is it at. The layer ID. So now this is the M1 layer, which is the metallization layer. The X1, Y1. So X1, Y1 is the X and Y coordinate lower left corner. And then I'm assuming that this one, X2, Y2, is going to be, yes, upper right-hand corner. So since it's a rectangle, I only need 2 sets of points.
Great.
And then, of course, this identifies the thickness and so on. So the point I'm trying to make is, in your travels, as you're doing your code, if you come across something that you think you would be able to use, go ahead and explore it a little further in the search. Now, there is one other thing I want to share with you, which is very interesting, and this will help you get started on programming. I have my command window open here, and the interesting part about this is if I clear my history, watch what happens every time that I click on a device and I instantiate it. It's actually it's reporting all the AEL instructions that I'm doing.
Okay.
So it's almost like you can take this information right here with some minor adjustments and create a routine.
Yes.
So that's another little trick there. There is also a macro recording tool So you can go ahead and launch the recorder, the macro recorder. And at the end of that, you're going to get a script. It's not a 100% thing. You're going to have to then massage it a little bit to make it a little more portable. But that's something that's also available.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the information. We have a question in the chat box as well.
Yeah, we have a
Karan.
question, AJ from IEL. He would like to know if it's possible to use EEL coding for EM data post-processing. For example, he would like to plot like a gain of any simulated antenna in ADS.
You can, yes, you could use AEL for post-processing. Now, the question I have for him, though, is what tool is he using? Because if he's using EM Pro, or he might be using maybe Momentum, and you can certainly use Momentum.
Yeah, well,
you could
please
use,
unmute yourself and.
Yes, so I'm already simulating with Momentum.
Okay.
But I need to access the far field instead of doing it by many mouse clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Can I access far field data or surface current data to unplot again or plot the current distribution by AEL or?
Sure. So there is a way to automate that particular operation that you want. The tricky part is getting access to the data from the data set. What I would do is I would do all the manipulation in the data set, get the data to a point where you're satisfied with it. Unless there's multiple mouse clicks, as you said, at that point, you might want to do some post-processing prior to sending it for review or for the viewer. There is a way of doing it. It's not something trivial. It's a little more involved. So, were you the one who asked the question earlier and wanted some more information on that? There was somebody who asked a question, and I had asked if you can get the email address for them.
Yes, I have the email address. I will.
Okay.
I will send them the information or give
It is
them.
him. It is him, right?
No, I am.
No.
Okay.
It's a different person. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
then you might want to get his email address too.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can send your email address in the chat box. I will write it down. And also we have another question. Karanvir has asked that if there is a way I can access the detailed models of the transistors used in ADS. I have encountered differences between PSPice and the ADS results, even when I specified the same model parameters.
So I'm assuming you're talking about the models that are on the palette here.
I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So those models, unless you have access to the design kit, and even then, sometimes they're protected because they're encoded. You're not going to be able to access that. Okay. Is this a model in ADS?
Yes, it was the models in ADS. So I was comparing different. I was modeling some MOSFETs in PSPice as well. So I was comparing the results between PSPice and ADS.
Right.
And I found inconsistencies between them, even though circuits and the model parameters were exactly the same.
Right. Well, I mean, there certainly is the possibility that the models were extracted under different conditions or different circumstances. So that's something you have to be aware of and mindful of. The other thing that you need to be aware of is, I'd love to be able to say, let's go here, and you can find the model there. Unfortunately, I generally speaking, you rarely have access to the models that appear on the palette. They're encoded. They're in a protected place. What I will encourage you to do is forward that information back to support, and they will help you figure out what's going on.
Okay, sounds
It
good.
will. Yeah, that's the best route and probably the safest route. I can work with you on that. Because what'll happen is once you report that, the tech support engineer will review it. And if it's something that they can work with you on, then great. Otherwise, they will seek help from someone else, most likely from R&D or from another level of support.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure.
So meanwhile, we are waiting for the question. I will launch the poll for asking a couple of questions. So feel free to answer them. And meanwhile, asking your questions from AJ. Don't hesitate to unmute yourselves or write your question in the chat box. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you so much, Ajay and Boris, for your time and support. It was really informative. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I appreciate that.
It was our pleasure. Thank you.
Alrighty. So I think we have managed to answer all the questions in the chat window, right?
Yes, I hope we didn't miss anything. I think I tried to double check. Everything seems answered, but in case anything is unanswered, please let us know, and we'll be happy to answer.
Sure. And you'll be sending me the email addresses. Right?
Yes, sure.
Fantastic.
I have two of email addresses, but Will Ahmed didn't send his email, so please send us your email. Okay, right. He did it right now.
Great.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, another one. And also, I think we can send the presentation to everyone. Yes, Ajay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I will send.
I'll generate a PDF file of it, and
okay, great.
I'll also go ahead and get the starter kit out to you too.
Perfect. Thank you. I will send out to everyone by email.
Right.
And great. So.
Do you have the list of all the participants so
yes.
that I can get the certificate out to them?
Yes.
We'll need that too.
I already shared that with Boris, but I will send you also.
No, I can get it from Boris.
Okay.
Don't
great.
bother. I don't want you working double.
Thank you.
I'll go after Boris.
Okay.
And he'll give it to me.
So
all right.
Good. Yeah, I have a list of attendees list. Oh, sorry.
Great.
Yeah, I have the list who registered, but I do not have attendees list mine. That's why we'll probably need the information for you who attend the session.
You know what happened?
Because we have a lot of people, registered, but like probably 70% attended.
You know, the question is that I don't have that list because it's only the. I don't know how we can figure that out, but.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it offline.
Most of people already left. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
I think we can recognize the names in the list because I don't know. I will take a picture now.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much, AJ. It was really impressive demo and really good tutorial, and I hope students and professors learn a lot today,
Well,
and they
it's
have a good
intended,
starting
yeah.
point. And
It's intended as an introduction, exactly. And
Yep.
certainly there's a lot more we can do, as you saw how extensive we can come up with a drop down. And then there's other things out there that are leveraging the 3D viewer and all kinds of things that are just incredible that you can do with AEL.
yeah, and also if they will have any question, they know with whom they need to contact with.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and we can work together, mine, on the follow-up email. We can put there some links, attach files, and
Of
add the
course.
information about Keysight support, about our hotline, and
Yeah.
so on.
Of course. And I will send you like the recording file. So if you want to upload it in your channels, or we can do it in a Montreal section website, as you prefer, just let me know.
Yeah, it will be great. Yeah, actually, it will be great, mine. Yep.
Okay, so I will upload it and send you the link, yes?
Yeah, send a link to us. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't need to check it before we upload it in social media, in case something went wrong or...
Yeah, let's check, but I think we should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Mine, AJ?
Everything is perfect, I think. We don't have other answers. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was a great meeting and session today.
Yes.
And have a nice day, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much
Take care.
again. And
Thank you,
thanks,
bye.
Keysight. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.